So, ladies and gentlemen, hi everyone. Hope you're well. Welcome to Fintech Summer Sessions 24, week 5 out of 10. And today's a super important session because we're talking about super apps. Super apps is really important because it brings together a lot of the different concepts we've talked about in the past, like embedded finance, payments, open banking, wealth and savings. And it's a really important topic. So, we're so pleased to have Yassine Regragui with us today here as well. Yassine was previously the project of products and operations director for Alipay. And if you're not familiar with Alipay, Alipay is the poster child for super apps. So you're hearing from one of the top people in the world who understand super apps over here. Yassine is also a professor at HEC in Paris, and he's also on the Digital Euro Task Force, so an expert in CBDCs as well. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Yassine, for joining, and thank you all for joining this really important session. As ever, please do add your Q&A in the chat in the Q&A, and we'll try and get through as many questions as we can. And with the Euro football now finished, and with the Olympics starting on Friday, there is no better place you need to be than with Fintech Summer Sessions 24 on this hot evening. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Yassine. Yassine, thank you very much again for joining, and really excited about seeing this presentation.
Thank you very much, Sagar. Thank you for this great introduction. Hello, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Bonjour. Ni hao, for those who speak those languages. So I will be spending the next hour with you, explaining the whole world and universe of super apps. Really pleased to be joining this FinTech Saudi session. You will see that it's quite immersive session because I will be presenting several parts, of course theoretical, but also connecting my phone directly with the screen and showing you in real life how a super app works. So Sagar has already gave a few words about myself, but I would just maybe add 30 seconds of more details about my background. So I've been working for the 12 past years in the fintech and payments industry, starting my career in China. So I worked in China for 6 years in startups, fintech startups as well. And then I joined Alibaba Group in 2014, right before the IPO in New York. And I was one of the first non-Chinese citizen to join Alipay in order to launch and manage the international version of Alipay app. So we'll have the pleasure to show you how Alipay app works and how the 1.4 billion users of Alipay use it daily. So after this time in China, I was back in France, Paris, working for Deloitte and advising leading companies and banks on their strategies related to fintech and payments. Today I'm working for Worldline from a product perspective, but also on strategy related to digital euro. And I'm also, as Sagar mentioned, adjunct professor of fintech and payments in several business schools in France, including HEC Paris. So feel free to connect with me, but I will, of course, give you the opportunity at the end to scan the code to stay in touch. So how this session will be organized. We will have 3 main parts. One part is about the what. We'll understand what is a super app. I know it's a kind of buzzword. We can put everything on it, but I will really give you concrete definition about it. And after that, you will know what to put under a super app. After seeing what is it, what are the main features, functionalities, what are they, what are the main players, we will look at why we are talking about super apps, why we have companies thinking about super apps or changing their strategies to launch a super app. And we will finish with how. So how to launch a super app, how to manage it, etc. So it will be structured in 3 main parts. First and foremost, I would like to ask you a question. So among the 2.3 thousand participants, please, could you tell if you are using or not a super app, if you are an Alipay user, or a WeChat user, or a Grab user, or a Karim user? or any super app you think about? Feel free to respond to this poll that just appeared. Great. I don't know if Sagar, you can.
We're just going to ask Lena, have you got the results? Because here we go. You got the results there.
Great. So 44% say yes, 22% say no, and 36% say they don't know what is a super app. So perfect. You are at the right place, and the objective of today is indeed to tell you more about it. Thank you very much for taking the time to respond to that. So in order to define a super app, I simply used the technology that most of us try to use the past months, which is ChatGPT. And but before to give you the answer of ChatGPT, I would like to tell you that half, and even more than half, of the world's population will use a super app daily by 2027. And this is based on a research done by Gartner. But around super app, we don't only talk about a mobile application. It can be more than that. That's why here we see that it's more than 50%. So it will be basically more than the 3 billion people that will be using a super app. So ChatGPT defines it as a mobile application that combines various services and functionalities. It started in Asia, and more specifically in China. It started in 2012 with WeChat. And I will detail a bit more WeChat, but you should know that super apps in general, they include a lot of different services. Of course, there are financial services, fintech services, but also e-commerce, also car ride hailing, also food services, banking, etc. And they were created really to offer a seamless experience, a unique user experience for their users, either they are merchants or users like you and me. So super app and super apps in general are definitely becoming a buzzword. Everyone is talking about it. Although when I was living in China, we were not really talking about super app. We were just talking about Alipay or WeChat. And then this buzzword became more and more popular. And in 2012, it was launched, so 12 years ago. And today we talk more and more about it. There are several reasons for that. And one of them is that we have a need from the companies to gather the data, to make sure that they offer different services, that they generate more revenue streams, etc. There was even a tweet from Elon Musk saying that he has acquired a Twitter in order to create an everything app. An everything app where payments is key as well, because an app where you cannot pay directly and you cannot purchase a product or a service, it can create not a very seamless experience. So just for your information, X has got several licenses in the US, in several states in the US for payments. So this also can lead us to think that X will become, or is even becoming, a super app. I mentioned that WeChat was the first super app ever. It was really born in China. But there were also, I would say, two major ones, because when we say that when we think of super apps, there are three main companies that come to our minds. The first one is WeChat in China. You have Gojek in Indonesia, and you have Grab in Singapore. But there are many other ones globally. WeChat started as a chat. It was created by Tencent. Tencent that initially was a gaming company. And today WeChat has an ecosystem of over 100 services. Gojek, Grab, it's more on a ride-hailing service like Uber, and mainly in Southeast Asia. So the geographical proximity also led the launch of such a model. So there are several super apps that exist today. We can even count them, and it's about more than 50 super apps. And you can see in the news that there are more and more super apps coming up. You have different industries, not only from fintech, but also from airlines. You have AirAsia that has its own super app. But you also have Google that's aiming to have a super app. You have Lydia in France. You have Karim in the MENA region. So yeah, here you can see really a need from those companies to launch it. Now, what differentiates a super app from a usual mobile app? A usual mobile app will have, like for example, Spotify or WhatsApp, will have one main function. For example, WhatsApp will be to communicate. Spotify will be to listen to music. However, a super app will have multifunctions. Will have multifunctions that are provided by the company itself or by third party. It has also some specificities. For example, you have one login and password for all the ecosystem, a little bit like the Google ecosystem. When you're using the Google ecosystem, you can, with one Google account, have access to your YouTube account, your Gmail account, your Google search account, etc. It's the same thing with super apps. You have unified customer knowledge, which is a KYC, the verification of the customer, the know your customer verification. And you have unified payment means, meaning that you don't need to input different bank cards. You don't need to have this complex process of payments. So these are the main differences between a usual app and a super app. Now, when talking about the features, Visa had a very simple and interesting classification of those services and features. It doesn't mean that in a super app, you must have these 6 services. It's, let's say, all type of categories. The first ones are financial services and payments. When you think of PayPal, for example, when you think of Alipay, they all have financial services. Then you have social and entertainment. WeChat started with social, and today they are a super app offering all type of services. Shopping and e-commerce. You have it, for example, with Paytm in India, or even Jumia in Africa. You have dining, the possibility to order food, etc. at home. For example, Grab and Gojek do offer it. Travel and transportation. Uber is an example. And then you have lifestyle services, and here I put all type of other services. For example, Groupon, for example, you have in China what we call Meituan, the possibility to order services directly online. So imagine all these 6 big categories of services embedded into one single app. That's a super app. But not only, because some companies made some strategic decisions on only choosing few of them, or even one of them, and they are still a super app. And this is what we'll see afterwards. And for those who are impatient, you will see afterwards that there will be a deep dive on Alipay super app, and you will see in real life what it looks like. So first and foremost, I would define super app with one word: ecosystem. You can have it on the phone, you can have it on a computer, you can have it on let's say a full, let's say a metaverse. It can be virtual as well. It's all about constructing an ecosystem. And here the example of Meituan. You can see this app from China that includes several services, and these services can be compared with some services we have in the West. For example, Deliveroo, for example, Uber, for example, Walmart, etc. So it's really a collection of different services, and the user is looking for one single platform to use all those services. And here I will give you a few examples of companies of super apps that offer those services. For example, Grab, you have ride sharing, and this is their core service. So they really start with one service, and then thanks to payments and financial services, they develop others. But they also offer food delivery, they offer package delivery, taxi services, etc. That was Karim. But you have for Grab, for example, you have the deliveries, and Grab is really well known for having let's say Uber-like services. But they developed to become a super app because they have included more and more services, not only from their in-house developments, but from also partners. So partnerships are extremely important, and we'll discuss about it also later on. Revolut, one of the challenger banks here in Europe, where they are also becoming a super app, not only for financial services, but they also enter the marketing services, they enter the travel services, they enter the marketplace services. So it's really a collection of services that adapt to their users. They don't think of the product itself, they think of the user. What does the user want and what I can offer him, rather than what is the area of the top service I can launch and whether my user can use it or not. It's really the opposite. PayPal as well. You can see here several type of services, from social services to financial services to charity, etc. So PayPal is definitely considered as a super app. Klarna, which is a buy now, pay later solution in Europe, born and created in Sweden, with, again, services for consumers and for businesses. They went beyond their core service that is buy now, pay later, and they offer in-store solutions. They offer solutions for all type of merchants, and they do it all through one single app. And then you have Paytm in India, which is following the same strategy as Alipay, as we can see. So the ecosystem are quite different. And here I try to show two screenshots. One screenshot is from my phone here in France on the left. And on the right, you can see a screenshot of my phone in China. It doesn't mean that I only had two apps, but it shows that all what you can have on the screen on the left can be available on each of the two apps you can see on the right. So either Alipay or WeChat. On Alipay, you can have access to a similar service than WhatsApp, or than YouTube, or than Twitter, or than Revolut, or any type of service you can think about. Same thing with WeChat. And this acceleration and this unique ecosystem in China is really, and was really boosted thanks to cashless society. Because, to give you a simple example about my life in China, during 6 years, I never had to go to a bank to withdraw cash. I went only once to get my bank card, to connect it with Alipay and WeChat. And all my life in China was happening within these apps, meaning that I will use it on a daily basis to call a cab, to order food at home, to talk with my friends, to pay, etc. So the two most popular super apps in China are WeChat and Alipay. WeChat was created by Tencent and Alipay by Ant Group, historically by Alibaba. I will now deep dive on each of these two apps. WeChat was created as a chat. I remember in 2012, I have downloaded the app when I was living in China because it was a way for me to communicate with my friends. But step by step, WeChat introduced first payments with WeChat Pay, and they have added more and more services. For example, e-commerce in partnership with Jingdong, the local e-commerce platform. Or they included also public services, all the administrative services. They included gaming services because Tencent is from gaming. And they included social services. So how to interact with my friends, a little bit like Instagram, for example, or TikTok. So what was the big switch from an app to a super app for WeChat was really thinking of what their users wanted. And what they wanted at that time, it was during the Chinese New Year. In the tradition in China, everyone distributes what we call hongbao. They are red envelopes that are distributed between people. And it was paper made. But thanks to WeChat, people could do it digitally. So everyone downloaded WeChat and used WeChat for that feature. And step by step, they got a huge user base and then trying to satisfy the user base, offering more and more services that satisfy their needs. Again, they didn't launch that feature randomly, but they really thought of what their users want. And this is how they evolve. Today, we even talk about mini programs. Mini programs, there are some small features, and I will show it to you on Alipay, small features that are developed by third party, where you can have access directly on the app. So for example, you are an e-commerce platform. Instead of having your own e-commerce platform, you would just put it on WeChat, a little bit like a marketplace, and everyone will use it. So I think thanks to that, they created over 20 million jobs in China with over 50 billion US dollars of revenue thanks to that feature. So mini programs is a collection of platforms developed by a third party without any coding knowledge. For those who are interested, I will be happy also to share with you the link to understand how it works as well. So the ecosystem of WeChat is really large. They serve, of course, individuals like you and I, but also merchants, also banks, and they have all range of services, of course, from financial services, but also from loyalty services, also from gaming, I mentioned it earlier, from social, etc. Now, Alibaba. So as I mentioned earlier, when I joined Alibaba and I had shared this news with my friends, the first thing that comes to their mind is the Chinese Amazon. And I had to try to find a logo or another company that is the same as Alibaba, but it was complex for me to find it. And the image that came to my mind is getting several images, several logos that describe what does Alibaba do in China. So Alibaba is not only the Chinese Amazon, because we can compare Taobao or Tmall that are the e-commerce platforms or AliExpress, but they do have much, much more services like cloud services, like social services, like logistics, payments, etc. So it's a collection of platforms. Remember, we talked about super app, ecosystem. This is an exact ecosystem. So in order to connect all their ecosystem, they use Alipay, because Alipay is a platform not only to pay, but to include all the services from their platforms, but also from their partners. So on Alipay, you can also have access, for example, to partners platforms like Uber or like Grab, etc., etc. It's not only developed by themselves. And this is an example of an ecosystem of Alibaba. So you have e-commerce, you have customer services, you have logistics, you have cloud, media, etc. And everything is available into one single platform on top of having different platforms as well. I mentioned that Alipay was initially created by Alibaba, but in 2015, Ant Group was launched. And I don't know if you followed the news, but Ant Group's IPO, that was supposed to be the world's largest IPO with over 330 billion US dollars of valuation, 37 billion US dollars that were going to be raised, was interrupted 48 hours before. But still, Ant Group is one of the largest fintech companies in the world, and they also manage Alipay. Initially, Alipay was just what we call an escrow service, meaning that if you go on an e-commerce platform, you have a buyer and a seller, and the only way to guarantee trust when we pay is Alipay. Same thing with PayPal on eBay. And step by step, Ant Group has launched several fintech services like MyBank or like Ant Credit Pay or like Yuobao, etc. And all these services are available on Alipay. So here you can see a typical journey of someone who is using Alipay. He can use it from the morning to the night and doing several activities. He can buy his breakfast with Alipay. He can pay his metro ticket with Alipay. He can talk with his doctor, book an appointment with him. He can book. He can order his lunch. He can buy movie tickets, shop online, pay his utility bills, get food delivered at home, plant a tree, and I will show it to you later. So it's really part of the daily life. And this is what the ecosystem of Alipay looks like. So you have mobility services like bus, metro, etc. You have municipal services like public services, local services, and much more. So in total, you have more than 1,000 different services on Alipay, and over 1 million that are developed by third party. And I will show you right after how it works. But first, let's look at the homepage. So the homepage, basically, here it looks mix of English and Chinese, and it's the same case when you open Alipay. But here you can see on the top, you have a localization. For example, if you're located in Paris, it will indicate that you are in Paris. You have, let's say, the frequently used services that are highlighted first. You have some advertisements, some promotions, and some personalized content. So what I will do now, I will directly connect my phone with the screen so you can see how it works. And I believe that you probably will have several questions during the session, so I will really welcome them and be happy to answer. Taking a few seconds just to connect with the trial just before. Great. So here is Alipay. So you can see that it's a little bit designed for Chinese users. So don't be surprised if you see many Chinese wordings, etc. You have an international version that is available, so you can have access to it here. So switch to international version, so you can have it fully in English. But the English version for me doesn't really reflect 100% what are the capabilities of Alipay. So I would directly switch to the local one. So here, Alipay, you can see on the top left that it's Paris. So basically, it's my location. I can select also another city. It can be in China, but also elsewhere. And what is interesting is that in each city, you will have a different page that will appear. So here you can see, for example, the city of Paris. The page is this way. And then if I select, for example, Shanghai, you will have a different page. And you will have, for example, more advertisements, more features, more games, and some localized products. So if I go back to Paris, and I will show you some features. Of course, it would take me maybe a week or more to show you how each feature works and what is each feature. But I will first start with the top 4 icons. So scan is to scan a QR code. So you can have many QR codes in China. It's one of the main ways to pay in China. But you can also translate. You can see on the bottom, you can have code, you can have translates. Is to translate any text. For example, here I have a text, so I can automatically translate it. So it can recognize it thanks to AI, for example. Then you have AR, it's augmented reality, and a little bit like Pokemon Go gaming, where you have some merchants, for example, who will dispatch some red envelopes, as I mentioned earlier, the Hongbao, and promotions or coupon, and people can get it instantly. So then you have pay and collect. Pay and collect, here is a way, for example, to pay in China. You have a barcode and you have a QR code. And this is, of course, dynamic, meaning that it will change regularly. And I can choose from my balance account. I can choose from my debit card, Chinese debit card, or my Visa card. And then I have receive, and this is in order to receive some money. So for example, if someone who has Alipay can scan me and I can, for example, receive some money on it. And I have also Alipay for business, and this is for merchants in order to have their own account and manage it. So you can see that this super app also includes some services from third party. So then I can, of course, transfer money here. You can see I can transfer to an Alipay account or to a bank. So transfer to Alipay if I know the email or the mobile number, and transfer to bank if I know, for example, the bank card number, and then select the bank. And what is surprising is the number of Chinese banks that are here available. So I will give you a test. So here, for example, I will make a transfer to my friend Jinglong, who is located in China. And then I will transfer him. So instantly, it will propose me whether I want to use my balance or I can use another way to transfer my money. And then with facial recognition, and the payment is done. And automatically here on the page, you can see in red the number of points, loyalty points that I get. And these loyalty points are based on how often I use Alipay and their services. So I can also talk with my friend, and here you can see I had to transfer him some money in the past. So I go back to the home page, and here you can see I'm in Paris, but if I go to Shanghai and I want to use, for example, the metro or the bus, I can click on transport, and I can click on bus, and here I will have a bus QR code, meaning that I will not need to go to buy a ticket or a bus card. I will automatically have this QR code generated. And this is, for example, for the city of Shanghai, but I can select one of the other cities that I have registered on. Same thing with the metro. And for the taxi, I can call a cab, and here the provider is provided by, the taxi is provided by Didi, and I can also change it. So then you have Pocket. Pocket is where I have all my loyalty cards and my coupon, not my loyalty cards. My loyalty cards are here. So whenever, for example, I go to Family Mart or to Carrefour or any grocery store, I will not need to show my loyalty card. I will automatically only get my payment QR code scanned, and my loyalty point will be added in my card, and I will have a discount that is deducted automatically from my account. I have my tickets. Whenever I buy a movie ticket or airplane tickets or any other type of ticket will be here. And also my ID, and this is what we call a digital ID that is already present in many countries. For example, in India, we have the Aadhaar. In Europe, there is also a project of having this digital ID. In France, we have France Identité, for example. So moving forward, I'm not going to show you all the features, but here you have some icons of the app. You have more and more features here available. But for instance, I have the possibility to have like to buy train tickets, etc., directly here. It's in Chinese. I'm not going to translate everything, but I have my let's say government services directly available, public services. And a very fun story. You also have the possibility to get married within the platform and sign the contract, and I will show it to you now. Marry and even divorce. That's a quite fun story. It doesn't mean that, of course, Alipay has access to all this data, but it's really connected thanks to APIs. So there is really a wall between data that is stored on Alipay and data that is used by the service provider. And it's an important point to mention. So I have the possibility, for example, to pay my tax, to pay my bills, to pay my fines, and really everything related to administrative services. One interesting feature is Ant Forest, and this is one of the features that increased the frequency of usage of the app, meaning that Alipay, they tried to think of what the users want, and they launched this feature that helped them to plant 500 million trees in China. So how it works, whenever I use the app or I do something that is ecological, I will gain some energy. So here you can see I have access to 44 energy because I have walked a lot. So I can collect it. And on the top right, you can see that it's 7,000 grams, meaning that I'm reaching 7,000 grams of energy. And once I reach, for example, I will show you one specific, I reach the one on the top left that is written 21,310 grams. It will mean that a real tree will be planted in China by a partner, by an association. So here, and just to show you, I could plant several trees. Here I have access to the certificates, and I can even see them in real life, how it looks like from a GPS perspective, but also from like here you can see, for example, how it looks like in 2017 and how it looks like today. 2017 is because it was the year when I planted it. And here you can see exactly where it is located in China. So just to give you an idea about, okay, a super app is not only about payments, it's not only about finance, but it's also about thinking of what the user can do in order to open the app more often and to do something that has an impact. So this, for instance, has an environmental impact as well. So I'm going back here and just finish with showing you the social platform. Here you have all my financial status, and I have much more other interesting services, but I'm not going to deep dive on all of them. And directly go back to the slides and wrap up before the Q&A session. So sharing back my screen. So now that you've seen Alipay and at least a small part of it, there are three reasons why it's successful. First thing is that they have a strong ecosystem. So super app is not about having a cool app that has all type of services. It's really about having a strong ecosystem of services, interconnected. If I don't know how to create a service, I will partner with someone who does it, and we will have a win-win collaboration. For example, Alipay does not do car or ride-hailing in France. They will collaborate with the ride-hailing company. They also have robust tech. So their technology is quite strong. They can handle over 300,000 transactions per second. And it's one of the biggest strengths. And it's mainly based on data. So data is key when talking about super apps. And then reactive market, meaning that they will not create a product for their users, but they will think of what the users want in order to create a product. It's really the other way around. But there are also some, let's say, hidden success factors. First one is that Alipay, first and foremost, was a trusted partner for the first shoppers on Alipay, on the Alibaba ecosystem. So this trust relationship is key. As long as you create trust with the company or with your clients, automatically you can offer more and more services. It's like, for example, when you go to a bakery, you buy your bread, and the baker will offer you a new type of bread. You will systematically try it if you like it, because you trust him. That's exactly the same philosophy. Then value. One of the reasons why Alipay is also successful is because people see a value behind it. It makes life easy. There are many coupons, many money that is distributed as well. And last is the culture. It's also a strong culture. Alibaba has a very, very powerful culture in China, and it's also one of the success factors. Now, if we see it on a more global perspective, super apps have a, let's say, success formula, and Visa summarized it quite well. First thing is to have a core offering. What is the core product that I offer? For example, Alipay is payments, and then they offer different services afterwards. But payments was the first one. WeChat was a chat. Grab was the ride hailing. And every company thinks of one single product. Afterwards, they will add some what we call adjacent offerings that makes their life easier. They think of not only the user, but also the merchants, etc. And trying to think not only to make the first customer pay, but think of what other partners could pay or what merchants could pay, etc. And third, and for me, this is the most important, which is partnerships. It's impossible to move faster on super app without partnerships. So thinking of the right partner who has the right database, who has the right skills, who has the right assets to help develop. So 1 + 1 = 3. This is really the idea behind it. So now, how to launch a super app? Of course, I will not go in details about it, and I could share many things about the technology-wise, etc. But for me, there are 4 items. One is about thinking about growing a large base and highly frequency use case. For example, having 10,000 customers, 20,000 customers, thinking of what they want. Creating a super wallet around payment means, so peer-to-peer payments, thinking of businesses as well. Building the ecosystems with in-house services, but also with partnerships. And then thinking of financial services, because payments is really the beginning of the experience. A client becomes a client once he pays, before he can be a sponsor. But this is really important when launching super app. So the platform called Payments try to look at whether there is an interest from people to use a super app, and 1/3 of them were not interested, and few of them, more than half of them, were at least a bit interested, and I think that as long as they see a value behind, they will use it for sure. For me, the future of super app is not really super apps. It's more about ecosystem. Everyone wants to create something that serves their customers, but first they have to think of what those customers want, what the product I can offer, what the ecosystem I can build, with which partners, and then it will be easy. So there is a huge growth opportunity anyways, and Visa predicts it to be plus 27%, so reaching $426 billion by 2030. So in case you're interested in moving in this field, it's promising. Now it's really, in terms of strategy, etc., there are different scenarios. The answer is not super apps. The answer is, what does the customer wants, what's the product I can offer, and how can satisfy his needs, and then adapt to his needs, offer more services, and expand. So now I will open it for questions. I try to stick to the time. I know that Sagar has also tried to filter a few questions. I have also put my my LinkedIn QR code in case you're interested to keep in touch afterwards. I would be happy also to answer questions that I did not address today.
Merci beaucoup. That was a great session. We really, really appreciate that on Super Apps. And I'm sure you're going to get hundreds of LinkedIn invites coming up. So please do try and break his LinkedIn, whoever wants to connect with him at the moment. Yassine, we've got a lot of questions coming through, and a lot of questions which are related to what's happening in Saudi in the market over here. Because we've talked about the Chinese example of Super Apps. So seeing Super Apps over here, we've got some of the names. We've got YourPay, Kareem, STC Pay is sort of looking at this. We've got a few social super apps. What's your view on super apps in the Middle East and in Europe as well? Actually, we've got some questions around, well, is this just a Chinese phenomenon, or are we expecting to see super apps developing in other regions as well?
That's an excellent question. So for the Saudi markets, the one that I know that is the most famous, and I presented it, was Karim, and it's even expanding in the whole region, meaning that it's really successful. And we also see some, let's say, other newcomers, but trying to stick with that strategy. But I think that now super apps are already 12 years old. Remember, from 2012 to today. So the question is not about, okay, let's launch a super app. It's more about what does the Saudi people need on their phone, whether it's one app with 10 or 100 different features, or it's one platform that helps them on their daily life. So it's really about, if I was an owner of a company, I would, and I want to launch a business, I would more think of, okay, I have a user base. What does this user base want exactly? How I can play with their, let's say, challenges, their daily life challenges, try to solve a problem. It's really about solving a problem. Another really good example is in Europe, for example, and you asked the question, Sagar. In Europe, we did a study in France, and most of the people do not want to use an app that does more than 3 different things. When you see Revolut, most of the people will open a Revolut and will only pay or transfer money. They will not do more. So it maybe will cost money to do it, and the result will not be the one expected. So it's really about being agile. And I see the future of super app being more an ecosystem. So the most innovative ecosystem can be developed in Saudi because of environmental friendly measures, because of the young population, because of great ideas, because of all these factors that will lead to create this new ecosystem. Today we talk about super apps, but we've been talking about it for the past 10 years. So what's coming next? Maybe this new ecosystem that will emerge will have a new name. So this is the way I see at least the future.
It's really interesting you say that, and one of the things which stood out is you haven't talked about banks becoming super apps. So is there, why is that? Because you'd think that banks have got a natural sort of advantage of having that customer data to becoming super apps, but we haven't really seen that happen yet, have we?
Well, banks actually try to, when we see the example of China, banks try to all have their own super apps. They try to copy the model of Alipay and WeChat because it works quite well, and they rely on their user experience. For the countries where banks are prominent in terms of financial services, for sure they will try to offer more services, but never as the customer expect. Why? Because they will mainly try to push financial services. Some will try to push beyond payment or beyond financial services, but it will be very limited. The future for me, when talking about that and super apps in the banking industry, is I can make 50% of my revenue or 40% of my revenue from beyond banking services embedded into one single platform. This is for me the achievement of being a super app or a super ecosystem. So banks should really think of this open banking and think of how to include more and more partners that offer something different, because banks have a very strong asset on top of finance. They have the customer data and customer knowledge, and the customers in general, they trust them. So how to leverage that knowledge and that strengths in order to gain more revenue streams, and develop the business on top of only banking or insurance or what is around financial services.
Thanks for that, Yassine. And Nikolai, thank you for correcting me. There is one bank he's given. Tinkoff Bank is a super app in Russia. So there is an example of a bank becoming a super app. So that's good. Our audience, a lot of the questions, our audience are very much concerned with the risks of this, right? So these super apps, about the misuse of data, having concentration in one app and the cyber risks around that, the complexity of UX and UI. Is my phone going to overheat? What about the monopoly issues around this? So what would you say to those sort of concerns? How have those been addressed?
So we cannot think of super apps without having a regulation behind. So it's not only about regulating the services, but it's about regulating the technology or regulating the finance behind it. I will give a simple example. When you launch a service, you will have to collect many data. And in Europe, it's really regulated by the GDPR, the European regulation that protects the customer's data. And for a long time, China was not having such a deep and let's say strong regulation. But today, they are implementing it. It doesn't mean that before it was really risky to use those services. But for me, regulations are really giving the pace and trying to make sure that the user is protected, that the business is protected, that the banks are protected, and that there is less fraud, there is less cyber crime, etc. So whenever you have a technology, you will have cyber crime, but you will have also in parallel some insurance. So many people tell me, what if you lose your phone? But if I lose my phone, I can, of course, buy a new one. I will have my account. I can get reimbursed if someone stole my money. It's exactly the same system. And the data, for example, that you could see on Alipay is not fully stored on Alipay. Not everyone in the company has access to everything within the apps of their users. It's really regulated and it's using a lot the APIs. So it's really separated as well. And regulations should be there to give the pace and make sure that the users are protected.
Thank you for that, Yassine. And the other sort of group of our audience want to create super apps, right? So we've got people who are asking, if I've got one app on my phone, if I've created an app already, how do I know whether that's a good starting point to build this ecosystem for super apps? And we've got other people who are just saying, well, what should I start with if I want to build a super app? What's the sort of secret formula that I should be using?
For me, the secret formula is so if you have a customer base, you have 100, you have 1 million users, what are their main problems, or what is the single problem among all those people? Try to pick one and try to solve it within one single feature. You have this feature or this service and you offer it on your app. You test it. We call it A/B testing. You can test it for a while. If it works, fine. If it doesn't, then you change it. And this was my role also when I was working at Alipay. We launched, for example, a feature that was not working well. That was the split the bill for foreign users. So when you are in a restaurant, you pay 100 euros and you are 5, so you split it in 20 per person. We put it on the home screen, but not all of the users was clicking on it. But we added it into the payment QR code, and everyone was using it. But it was solving a problem of splitting the bill. So it's really a matter of finding one problem and challenge to solve, and 2, test and be agile to be able to change it rapidly. In case the service does not work, offer something else. And if you offer something else, for sure something will work. But you shouldn't really dispatch also your strategy, meaning that not every month you will have a new feature. You should really be careful and work like with a certain group of people first, certain group of customers before dispatching it to a larger group.
No, super important point about the A/B testing and being able to utilize the data in the right ways to look at what features there are. What do you think Gen AI, what do you think with artificial intelligence coming in, how is that going to impact it? Is it going to mean that these super apps are much more efficient in developing solutions, or is it going to create other opportunities or other complications?
I think it will definitely first, the AI in general will help improve the risk and all the protection of the users, etc. But will also help let's say, solving problems, daily problems of users with Gen AI, conversational AI, etc. And for me, it's an opportunity because it will solve all the, let's say, complicated things that were existing before. And to give you an example, now when I open the app, I have things that are for me. I see the app that is different than 1.4 billion different people in the world using Alipay. So it's really adapting to me. But with AI, it will even be more and more personalized because it will know me better. It will use also the algorithm to improve those data. And it will create more, not dependency, but it will create more, let's say, problem solving from a daily basis. And whenever I will need something, I will open the app and the app will know more or less what I need. For example, when I pass by a certain store, I will get and I open my phone, they will know I'm in that store and I will have a certain discount, etc. This is the way I imagine it in the coming years.
Yeah, I don't think I'm ready for that yet, with the phone telling me that I should go and eat my McDonald's or something when I'm walking past there and things like that. But look, I think it's a very exciting area which we're looking at. And as you said, it's 12 years old, but there is still a lot of developments, a lot of work happening in this area. Just a final question which we have, which we ask all our guests, is if somebody's here, they're learning about super apps for the first time, they want to learn more, are there any specific resources that you suggest that they could look at to get more information on this?
So I think there are multiple ways, of course, LinkedIn, because LinkedIn has a lot of great resources. You can just subscribe to a hashtag of super app. For example, this is one of them. But you have also, if you want to go in deep into that, you have great reports done by the consulting firms, the big four, like Deloitte, for example. But also I think McKinsey has developed some, PwC also on super apps. So yeah, consulting, but also you have some specialized platforms for news like payments.com. In France, I'm thinking of Mind Fintech. Yeah. So there is another great tip, and I use it a lot for news in general, which is Google News. And then I subscribe to specific keywords. And every time I will get some fresh news about that let's say, newspaper or anything that is linked to that keyword. So I'm really up to date with what's happening.
That's a great tip, Yassine. Thank you so much for this session and for your time on this. I think it's been really interesting. It's been really informative. And I'm sure you're going to get a lot of questions coming back, follow-up questions on LinkedIn as well. Thank you all for joining. This was a bit of a different session. It's the first time we've done a product demo, and we've focused on deep dive on a specific company and the business model that they've developed. So if you did like this, then do please let us know through social media, through Telegram and emails that you like these sort of sessions, because we can do a lot more of these as well. And before I let everyone go, there is something, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but we have got an announcement which we're making tomorrow. But I would like you, because I like you guys so much, I want to tell you guys before we announce it to the world on social media. So as you know, we've got 24 of Fintech, which is coming. Lena, sorry, do you want to just share your screen on there? I can't see the post. There you go. Right. So as you know, we've got 24 Fintech happening at the beginning of September. And what we've got next week is 24 Fintech preview. So this is a taste of what to expect and the type of speakers to expect at 24 Fintech. So we've got a virtual webinar, really good speakers. We've got Nazar, CEO of Fintech Saudi. We've got Basma, who's the partner at Impact 46. We've got Chaman, which is the co-founder of CFTE. So you would have met Hui last time as well, who talked about CBDCs. His co-founder who's going to be on the session. And we've got Ronit. Ronit's he's in charge of Future of Finance at Citi. He's written some great books. So please do join us for this on the 31st of July, so next Wednesday at 7 p.m. This hasn't gone out, so you are the first ones to know about this and register for us. So do please join us for this. And of course, we'll see you next week. In fact, next week builds on what we've learned today. So this week, We talked about super apps. Next week, we're going to go into the engine. We're going to talk about embedded everything. How do we actually build this embedded ecosystem to get to the super apps that we want? So we've got a great session with Arjun Singh next week. So please do join us for that. Kareem, Lena, did I miss anything else? Any questions I've missed?
Thank you, Sagar.
Awesome. I think we've covered it for the evening. So enjoy the rest of your evening, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. And Yassine, thank you once again. And we look forward to seeing you in Saudi soon.
Thank you, Sagar, for being such a great moderator.